Most people aren't lazy. They're tired. Not the kind of tired that goes away with sleep. Not the kind that disappears after a day off. It's a slower kind of exhaustion. The kind that settles in quietly and stays. People wake up already feeling late. Late to their own lives. Late to stability. Late to the version of themselves they thought they would become. They start the day carrying weight they didn't choose. Bills, expectations, responsibilities that don't pause just because someone feels overwhelmed. So they do what they were taught to do. They push harder. They work longer. They try to be more disciplined. See, and when that still isn't enough, they turn inward. They assume they're the problem. But effort was never the real issue. Most people are putting in effort every single day. They show up even when they don't feel ready. They keep going even when motivation is gone. What's draining them isn't laziness. It's pressure. Pressure comes from carrying too much for too long, without relief. From constantly managing risk. From knowing that one mistake could cost stability. Rent doesn't wait. Deadlines don't slow down. Life doesn't lower its volume when someone is tired. So people learn to live in a constant state of alertness. Always calculating. Always adjusting. Always bracing for the next expense, the next demand, the next problem. That kind of mental load wears people down faster than physical work ever could. The system tells people that effort equals reward, but that stopped being true a long time ago. The world doesn't reward effort anymore. It rewards leverage. Leverage is invisible. You can't feel it in your body. You don't get sore from it, but it multiplies outcomes. Two people can wake up at the same time, work the same hours, and give the same level of focus. One barely keeps up. The other moves forward, not because one works harder, but because one is positioned differently inside the system. That difference creates tension. People sense it, even if they can't explain it. They feel that something is off, that the math doesn't add up anymore. And that realization creates pressure. Pressure changes behavior. It shortens patience. It reduces generosity toward oneself. It turns small problems into heavy ones. Under pressure, people don't think long-term. They react. They choose whatever brings immediate relief. That's how people get stuck in cycles they didn't plan for. Not because they lack intelligence. Not because they lack ambition. But because constant pressure leaves no room for clarity. Clarity requires space. Not luxury, just space. A moment without noise, without comparison, without urgency shouting for attention. Most people never get that moment. They move from task to task, from obligation to obligation, from worry to worry. And over time, that constant movement creates exhaustion that looks like apathy from the outside. But it isn't apathy. It's overload. Silence changes that. Not silence in the sense of isolation, but the kind of quiet where thinking becomes possible again. When the noise drops, even briefly, patterns start to appear. You notice what drains you. You notice what repeats. You notice which efforts produce nothing and which ones compound. That awareness is the beginning of control. Control doesn't mean dominating circumstances. It doesn't mean having power over others. It means having enough margin to choose calmly. Enough margin to pause instead of rushing. Enough margin to say no without fear. Enough margin to step back and look at the system instead of fighting inside it. Most people don't lack motivation. They lack margin. Margin protects energy. Margin protects attention. Margin protects decision-making. Without it, every choice feels urgent. And when everything feels urgent, nothing strategic happens. This is why pushing harder often makes things worse. It adds effort to a structure that's already leaking energy. At some point, continuing the same way stops being responsible and starts being damaging. That realization can feel uncomfortable because it challenges what people were taught to value. Hard work feels honorable. Rest feels risky. Questioning the system feels dangerous. So people stay tired and tell themselves it's normal. It isn't. Exhaustion is information. It's feedback. It's the body and mind saying that effort alone can't carry everything anymore. The shift doesn't happen all at once. It doesn't happen with a sudden breakthrough. It happens quietly. When someone stops blaming themselves, when they stop asking why they're not strong enough, and start asking what exactly is applying pressure. That question changes perspective, because once pressure is visible, it loses some of its power. It becomes something that can be adjusted, not endured blindly. Leverage doesn't come from force. It comes from structure, from systems that continue working even when energy is low, from choices that reduce friction instead of increasing effort, from protecting attention from constant demands. This isn't about escaping responsibility. It's about carrying it without breaking. Most people don't need more discipline. They need less pressure. And that starts with recognizing the simple truth. You're not lazy. You're under pressure. And pressure doesn't mean you're weak. It means you've been strong for a long time.